Can we gather? Okay, so I'm going to simulate a jacket full parts. And I'm just going to draw on a welt. So you're going to hopefully, you will rather, be making a practice welt. So in order to do so, we're going to grab a little strip of canvas, which you'll have left over from your sample. And then you can literally just tack around it very quickly, just to hold it into place. And then you can grab a swatch of cloth which you found anywhere you want in one of the bins over there or there. Okay, I'm just being very quick, but you can be a lot neater than me. Okay. Sorry?
Which part of the jacket is this?
This is just the jacket full part. So this is a coat full part. Yeah, I'm just mimicking it so that you can make a sample swatch. Okay, so we are going to draw on a welt. So, ruler. Hopefully you can see this chalk, and if you can't, there you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to draw on a welt, which is the same size as the welt on your jacket. I'm going to make it bigger, just for the sake of you being able to view it on the camera. There. Okay, so I've got my welt. I'm then going to grab some top cloth, and I'm going to bang that shape on. So I want the right side of the cloth to be facing me. Yep. And I'm going to lay the cloth like so. So down the piece over here. And I want extra cloth all the way around where the welt sits, and particularly quite a bit on top. And I bang it through. We then get to transfer the marks faintly across to the other side. And I'm going to redraw those back on so that you can see them on the camera. There and there. Yep. I then want you to extend these lines up. And then you can extend another line there and there to double up the welt across. Yep. So I'm going down in this direction and I am now facing my wrong side of the cloth. I can put next to there to mark it. I now want to trim this back to about a 1/2 inch all the way around, or 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And then I want you to grab a bit of fusible. So you could do this with a floating canvas or with a fusing canvas. And I want you to lay that onto this top side of the cloth, like so. Yep. And I'm just going to go and fuse that on. You've dealt with fusing in textiles? No. Have you dealt with fusing yet? Okay, so fusing is a bit of interfacing, which is rigid, but which has glue on one side. The gluey side is the side which is slightly white and is slightly rougher. You need to make sure that the gluey side is the side that's facing down. If you don't, and you go and iron it on and heat up that glue, what happens? Okay, and Auntie Eileen does not want to be cleaning irons today. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go glue this on. Okay. So now that I've done that, there, I'm going to fold my piece onto itself, like so, and I'm going to baste a line down on that fold just to hold it in place. I'm then going to turn it over and I'm going to draw 2 more lines. How does she want them? She wants them there and there. Here and there. And what Madeline would like you to do is to go and stitch down here and back tack just there, and then stitch from here, back tack and then down, and the same on this side. Back tack, stitch, back tack, stitch, back tack. And what you end up with, who was brought up on art attack? Neil Buchanan. Are you too young? Oh yeah. Well, for those who would get the reference, here's one I made earlier. And oh, she's left it there. And you're going to end up with these stitch lines. So maybe if I fold it up there. Can you all see? Yep. So you're going to back tack, stitch, back tack, and then a separate line, back tack, stitch, back tack. Once you've stitched that in place, you're then going to stagger your seams. So we're going to, I might just go and stitch this very quickly.
So this is the industrial one,
Yeah.
and then this is with the iron,
Yeah.
and then you fold it over just so that the iron is in the top. So like so this is so the iron one, and then you tap that, and then you flip it over to the side without that. And then
All right, so as soon as you come off the machine, you need to get into the habit of trimming all your excess threads off. Ideally, trim them at the machine. Bring a little pair of snips in with you. Oop.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I can release my baste. Like so. And then I want to stagger my seams. So I'm going to cut on one side, slightly big, about 3/8 of an inch. Same on the other side, 3/8. And then I'm going to cut into that corner. Oh, she does it. Oh, she wants it. No, she wants it that way. There, and I'm going to go just shy of the stitch, like so. There, and then you're going to stagger your seam here. So you're going to cut one side slightly smaller than the other, so that your seam allowances don't end in the same place, and you reduce the likeliness of any bulk. So tailors are obsessed with getting rid of bulk. So staggering your seams like so means that you get less likeliness of thickness all ending in the same place. Yeah. Once you've done that, what does she want? You can also stagger this seam. So I'm going to snip that back there, and then I'm going to snip that there. Same here. That there. Snip that there. You can then bag this out. Does she trim her end? Just trim your end like this as well. So you can go snip and snip. All right, so we've trimmed this up like so. We're now going to bag it out. So you can grab an end, and then you can push it through, and you want to guide it through as neatly as you can. You need to be careful and treat your ends with care, otherwise they can blow out. So, and then you tease out. There. You tease out your points with a needle. There. And there. All the way out. That's over here as well. The tension on this machine is slightly loose, so my threads are coming through a bit more. I might adjust that for you. And then there. I'm then going to go to the iron and I'm going to press my seams towards me on one side. So what I don't want is for that seam to be 50-50. I want it on one side to be slightly in. So I'm just going to pull it back just slightly so that those stitches are visible only on the inside of the pocket and not from the outside. Yeah? So I'll go onto the iron and I'll just pull this back ever so slightly until I can see my stitches, and then I'll press it. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Pull it back ever so slightly and then I'll press it. And once that's done, you have a welt, and that's going to be used to make this portion here of your pocket. Where are we? There. Yep. Okay, we'll start there and I'll do the rest as we go along. Okay? Huh? Are we ready? All right. Could I? Okay, so what I'd like you to make sure is that you're aware as we go along with what the right sides and wrong sides of your cloth are going to be. So I'm going to be marking X's for the purposes of the demonstration. You don't need to be doing this, but it's just so that you're aware that I'm making this consideration. So this is the wrong side of my out-breast welt, and I'm going to mark the wrong sides of what are going to be 2 bits of pocketing. The pocketing that's in your pack is called silesia, and it's a cotton linen, which looks like that. Sorry, it's a cotton lining, which looks like that. Don't use that for the purposes of your pocket. Use a scrap. The reason why it's important that you bear in mind what the right sides are that if there is a right side to the lining that you're utilizing, you want that to be on the right side of the pocket that you're going to be making. Okay? What other thing, other than right or wrong side, is important to consider when we're using a fabric? The grain line. And we want things to be utilizing the same grain line because of that process of shading. So fabrics that have a nape, or that have a pile, you might say, velvet has a very strong pile, will shade, so it will look a different color one way as opposed to the other. And that can be said for essentially all fabrics, but some will have it so little that they won't show it at all, if anything. But you still need to be cautious as to what grain you're using, up or down. So I'm just going to mark little arrows as well, which are going to indicate which way that grain is going. And it's a good practice to sort of just bear in mind where your grains are at. So the grain on this welt is going that way, and the grain on my top cloth is going that way. Again, don't mark your fabrics on the right side. You only want to be using chalk in spare amounts. Right, so now that you've got your welt in place, you're going to lay it in to where those angles form that we sewed up. So I'm going to mark them through, and if you want to be extra good, you're going to measure the welt from top to that line and make sure that it's the same both sides. In theory, it should be. You're then going to line that up with the welt going that way, so upside down, to this point over there, which is the base of where your opening is going to be located. And you're going to pin that in. You're also going to have trimmed back that edge to about 3/8 of an inch or 1 cm. I then want you to grab a facing, and my apologies, pocket bag. And then I want you to make sure that when this goes in, that it goes in that direction. So I need to make sure, I don't usually sew them this way, so I need to make sure I'm not making a mistake. I want that to be going, crap. Christ. I want it going there and then I want it go. Yes. Okay. So you want the wrong side facing you, and you want the arrow going the same direction as your top cloth. So I'm going to pin that in like that, and I'm lining up the edge of my welt with that bit of cloth. How big am I making this? Big enough to cover my welt comfortably and deep enough for the depth of my pocket. How deep is your pocket? That depends on how deep you need to be making it. So there's an aesthetic consideration. There's also how much length you have between where your pocket is and where the bottom of your waistcoat is. I can't make a pocket that's going to be that deep, giving in mind that my waistcoat's going to end there. So I'm probably going to have to end my pocket here. Yep. The next thing is to grab your bag, other side, and again, this time you're going to lay it edge to edge with the first bag, wrong side facing you, arrows going in the other direction. And you're going to pin that into place. We're then going to do something a bit kooky, and we're going to sketch in where our seam lines are going to end. So, I want, if I come in here, I want my welt to be sewn right to the edge. Yeah, so I can feel where the edge is, and I'm going to mark that through. And the same on this side, I want it sewn right to the edge, so I'm going to mark that through, and I can redraw that stitch line to help myself out. You can sew this in 2 stages if you'd rather. You can sew the welt first and then put the bag on top, and then you have a stitch line to refer to, whichever you'd rather. So I've got that line, and then I want my other pocket bag to be sewn in short of where the welt is going to end. So if you think about this, I don't want this pocket bag sewn in further past the edges of where my welt is going to come up. Otherwise, by the time the welt comes up, if I sew my pocket bag further than this edge, then my pocket bag is going to be visible past the edge of my welt, and I don't want that. Yeah? So I need to make sure that that's well within the edges of where my welt is, so it's disguised. So I'm going to sew my pocket bag a good 1/8 of an inch or a small 1/4 of an inch inside of that edge. I'm going to mark it through there and there on the pin. And I'm going to stitch these back from the raw edges a small centimetre. So I've got 1 stitch line there, and then my next stitch line is going to be there. Yeah? So I'm going to go to the machine, I'm going to back tack, go into that point, come in, back tack, and then the same here, back tack, come into this line and back tack. I'll be back in a second. All right. So, Jimmy. All right. So, as soon as you're off the machine, get into the habit of getting rid of your spare threads. So we do that immediately. Trim everything off and keep it clean. And then don't forget your back. There, 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 and there. And now we're going to cut miters, which are little triangular elements which form the edges of our pocket. So I'm going to, first things first, fold the line back here and make sure that it's straight before I cut and knit in. And then I get my shears in and I'm going to cut back about a ½ inch shy from the first edge there. So I end my snips there. I reverse and do the same thing on the other side, ending there. And now I lift everything out of the way and I cut. Let's see if I can make this smaller. There. Okay. So I'm now going to lift everything out of the way and cut just shy of my last stitch. I don't want to cut the last stitch. I'm a millimeter away from it. I then do the same thing over here, lift everything out of the way and cut just shy of my last stitch. Same thing there on the other side. Yes.
Why? I didn't quite understand why does one side have like slightly less stitches?
You're going to see that in a second. I'll repeat myself.
Is it the side with the top or is it the side without?
Other one. So just shy of my first stitch there. And then same thing there, shift everything out the way, just shy of my first stitch. If I reverse it, you'll see that I have this opening with these two triangles on either side. Okay? I can now flip that over, flip this over, and shove this inside. And because you've cut just shy of the snip, it will come through easily like that. There, and you can just tease it out and it will be nice and neat. And then on this side, see, we're going to pull that down there, like so. And then on this side, you're going to shove the bag down and also pull it in the same direction. And same thing, because we've got our miters, it'll all end up coming through in a clean manner. There and there. So, let's go over this. I pulled my bag through and I've now ended up with my welt formed. And then if I lift up, oh, here we go, am I there and there? Oh, you can see how, you can't see my miters there they are. Because I've cut shy of the edges, my welt is now covering where the pocket bag is going to begin at the top. Yep. Had I gone further in, I would have had a little bit more difficulty concealing the edge of that pocket bag. Does that make sense to everyone? Yep. Okay. So what we need to do is now clean it up. We want everything to lie neatly so you can pull things taut and just create a little bit of a gap into the miters to make sure all is flat there. And then you can go and press this out on the board. Give me 2 minutes. All right. Oi, oi. Can I get you a tent? Oi, oi. Okay, and so then you have the essence of your pocket made. Okay, so I've got my and then you have the essence of your pocket made. Let's just go that way. Yeah. So you've got your welt forms, you've got your facing or other side of your pocket bag in place, and then all you have are 2 layers of fabric here. And at the next stage, when we gather, we're going to stitch a shape of a bag in, and we're just going to edge stitch the edges of our welt down. So the last finishing hand stitches to secure it all in. Guys,
Can you just keep here? Yes.
I'm going to go over that last bit one more time, okay? So there are samples here somewhere. Okay. So we had our little square of fabric, and then we had our 2 bits of pocket bag. Yeah, and I had the shape of my welt in place. There. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to lay my welt in, wrong side facing me, into the bottom of that edge. Imagine it's bigger. I've drawn it the wrong size, so it's here. Yeah. And I'm going to pin that in with, that's not big enough. Another bag. Yep, like that. And I'm going to stitch from one end of the welt, which you can see there, to the other edge of the welt, where those angles form. Yep, so I'm going to pin that into place. I'm doing this slapdash. You need to be a lot neater, just so that I can efficiently get it done during session. There and there. You're then going to lay another bit of pocket bag over it, and you're going to stitch that in place inside those lines. So if you imagine those lines coming straight up to form where the welt comes over, you need to be a good 8 inside of those lines. And so you're going to stitch from there to there, and then from there to there. Once you've made those stitches, you're going to end up with 2 rows of stitch, which will look something like that. Yeah? I want you to cut in the middle, a 1/2 inch back from either first points. And then I want you to cut triangles into the points just shy of your stitch lines. Yeah. The longer line is the welt line. So, sorry, it's going to be hard to get these both in. There we go. This line here is that line there. And that shorter line in there is the one that you see inside here. And then you can see your two little triangle miters. Am I making sense? Yep. Okay. Once you've done that, you flip your welt. So from being in this position up, and you push that first bag through, pull it, and press it. You then grab the second bag, which will be this side, and you shove that through, pull it, and press it. And then press it from the other side too, and make sure that all of the elements are laying nice and flat. Any questions? No? Okay. Give it a go.
All these going to be questions?
Yes.
I'm just going to use some extra.
Okay. I was going to say, where are my scissors? Say hello to Minnie. Okay, so last step is really quick. You are going to cross stitch the edges shut. So turn that over, come in here, and I can feel where the edge of my welt is. This is all done by feel. I know I'm going from essentially there to there. So I'm just going to cross stitch all the way along and secure that into place with my needle heading outward from the edge. Like so. Back tack at the top, and then go back down all the way along. That, and then tack off. And that secures your edge in and stops it from now coming out. Yeah. The last step after that is to sew your bag. So you're going to lift this up and you're going to draw the shape of your bag in. Has anybody got a ruler? Someone chuck me a ruler. Solid. Draw the shape of your bag. So square with your miters. So you can see there, I've started there and I've started there. And I'm going to come down however many inches I want from my pocket mouth opening. So from there, I'm going to say I want it yay long, and I'm going to square across. And then all you need to do is pop a pin in there, there, and a pin there, and then round off the corners so that you can take the lint out of the pocket more easily. And you're just going to machine there. That's it. Yeah? We all good? Right, I'll let you get on. By next time, ideally, real pockets in the real waistcoat.